first of all, thank you for being here. I so appreciate it on a very busy day, the day of the premiere. So thank you for squeezing me in.
Thank you.
I want to start with you, Margot, because obviously, I mean, all of you have this really beautiful woven relationship with Emerald Fennell, but you specifically with your company, Lucky Chap, having worked with her on all of her films. In my mind, and don't crush my dream, I imagine she's pregnant Barbie, Midge, sitting next to you, and you're Barbie, and she goes, but what about Wuthering Heights? And you're like, okay.
It's exactly how it happened.
I knew it.
Don't let me burst your bubble. That is exactly
was she also
how it
smoking
went.
a cigarette?
She
as
was.
Midge?
Yeah, exactly.
But tell me, how did it actually start? Because obviously it's a prolific amount of work at this point that you guys have done together. Is it jump off the cliff together? Do you just say yes to anything, Emerald Fennell? Why not?
Yes to anything she ever wants to do. She gave us a heads up while we were doing Saltburn that she was going to do Wuthering Heights as her next project and wanted us to produce it with her. And I was thrilled. I was like, great. I mean, honestly, she could have said anything, though. She could have said absolutely anything, and I would have been like, great, we're there.
Yeah,
Let's
why
do it.
not? And for you, Charli, I mean, I think one thing that's so incredible about this is like doing an inspired album, which, you know, is such like a great take. I think your career has been so fascinating and has built on layer upon layer. And I love that Emerald was such a fan, has used your music prior in other films, including Promising Young Woman. And for this, like, it sounds like she sent you the script. And again, sort of like, don't burst my bubble, seeing this, you know, very visceral opening sequence, which begins with a hanging. And then music like what, coursing through your body? Tell me a little bit about how it started for you.
Yeah, I mean, Emerald kind of hit me up at the end of 2024. She just texted me, which was a bit of a surprise. We don't really text that much. So I was like, oh, hi, Emerald. And she told me about the screenplay and asked if I would do one song. And I honestly like devoured the screenplay. It just really, it was so like alive to me on the page. And I immediately felt inspired to kind of write more than just one song. And I asked her whether she'd be interested in a whole album. And she said yes. And that was kind of the beginning. And the whole process was so free. I mean, with everybody involved in the film, I really felt that I had the space to create kind of whatever I wished, and I was just so obsessed with the world, it really just flowed.
And was there, I mean, I sort of joke just because that opening sequence, which people will see, is so arresting in so many different ways and really sets the tone for you to really like take off with this movie. But was there a moment for you that felt like a key to unlocking all of these songs?
I think for me, honestly, it really was the screenplay, because we kind of started writing songs prior to you guys shooting. So it really just felt so vivid. And I think for me, I was listening to a lot of John Cale at the time, and he has this quote in this Todd Haynes Velvet Underground documentary where he describes all the strings as being elegant and brutal, and that was like a necessity for him to create any music with the Velvets. And that was just a quote that I kind of like really applied to Emerald's Wuthering Heights, and that was sort of the blueprint for all of the songs. For
all of it to come together. And Jacob, you know, I think with like Heathcliff, what's so fascinating about him and the relationship with Kathy is that, you know, there's such a feeling of being seen within each other because there are these elements of abandonment or abuse or sort of, as you guys have described in sort of other interviews, like this codependency because they in many ways don't know anything else. There's this bizarre closeness to them that also can be invigorating and intoxicating and devastating, and you have to sort of like interpret all of that into this from the page. And so tell me a little bit about what made you want to tackle Heathcliff and why.
I think the relationship between Kathy and Heathcliff, to me, just always has felt fated. Like it feels like it's always existed, even before their sort of situation and how they live together and what's happened to them in their lives. They feel like two, you know, these magnets that have been moving toward each other through time. And then wanting to play it was just, same as Charli, I got a text from Emerald and it just said, do you want to play Heathcliff? And I wrote, yep. and that really is it, because I have like a small obsession with Emerald Fennell and her kind of the images that she conjures up and sort of what her subconscious brings to cinema. So yeah, that's kind of the why is Emerald, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much seriousness in this movie, but there were also moments, at least in my screening, where we really laughed out loud. Like there is that sort of side to it too, which I feel like is, I don't say it's getting a little lost, but I keep telling people like, you're also you're gonna be sobbing, but like you're also gonna laugh so hard. And there is a moment that I really feel like the film shifts, both sort of like tonally in some ways, but also evocatively between your characters in particular, where Kathy is witnessing this this sexual act, and it's invigorating but scary, but also like, are these feelings that have been inside of me? And Heathcliff comes in and holds her face back, and it's so moving, but at the same point I was like, did you poke out Margot Robbie's eyes at any point doing any of those scenes, Jacob?
I was not injured in the making of that scene.
Okay, because your hands are rather large, I noticed in that.
But it was
And your face is rather petite.
Why, thank you.
it was a really technical shot actually, because Emerald was lighting through a crack in the floor, which was sort of candlelight from down below. So her face needed to be in sort of the exact position, and the lens was a super fast lens because it was so dark. So you can't move a lot in that kind of frame on that lens. So it was all very technical, but it needed to have that.
But it needed to have
to have this
Yes.
sort of.
The timing with the
moment.
hand clapping over her mouth just as she gasped, just as this was. It was actually a far more technical setup than it feels
which is usually
like.
the case with these things that can sort of come off beautiful on screen. It's or sexual or have an energy. They choreograph just like a fight or a dance,
Well, and like the larger discussions that you must have had, beyond the script, because I can tell it had to have been, so deep in sort of like the trenches of the way that she writes, understanding kind of like these larger themes. But, the beginning of the film, I kept thinking, God, this looks like a Caravaggio painting. There's so much bathed light on you, or the way that sometimes people wouldn't be able to see each other through windows. It'd be shaded. But every time you guys saw each other through windows, it was so crystal clear. There were so many little things that made sense to the relationship of Heathcliff and Kathy that was so beautiful. But like, would you have to sit down and have those conversations and really go some of the like deeper meanings that were going to be visually there? Because everything sort of like takes on a meaning. Like the deep red floors when Kathy is speaking to Nelly are always present. It's so much deeper than the page.
Totally, and I think Emerald always populates her films with like symbolism and thematic through lines and all that kind of stuff that I think you get to really appreciate when you're looking at the end product. I think when you're in it, even when you do, you can't help but be like, oh wow, this is kind of like an inferno right now. Oh, this is whatever. I try not to get caught up in that, because you are also just being like, okay, what's my character doing and thinking, and what's the kind of like acting piece of this right now? But it's something I think you get to appreciate more in the development when I'm watching it come together, and then in the edit too, and you're like, oh wow. Even something as simple as like the foreshadowing of Isabella, and I love that you mentioned how funny the movie is, because the bit that I laugh out loud most to is often Alison's character Isabella's moments, but there's a bit where she's telling Edgar the plot of Romeo and Juliet, and it's so funny, and he's just kind of like enduring it, which tells you so much about him as a character too. Like, he's so kindly. Okay.
He's so lovable.
He's so lovely. And it's totally foreshadowing, and then you're like, oh, Emerald's pointing out the link between these two literary classics, and da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, there's a lot you can extrapolate upon, I think, when you're watching the film at the end. But no, in the moment, I think it was impossible not to just feel in the moment with the moments that were happening on set.
Well, and also I found the relationship between Kathy and Nelly specifically also so deeply fascinating, which is such like another layer of almost a forced sisterhood type situation, which are always, there are deep resentments there. They're almost like legal spats in a way, how, intertwined they are, and how nasty it becomes. And Hong is such an incredible actress and workforce. And then your character being brought in as well. Is there going to be a remix of their relationship, Charli? I feel like for the part 2 of the album, maybe?
The Wuthering Heights remix record. I mean, look,
I think
never
so.
Say never. You never know.
It's giving Girls So Confusing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it is, yeah.
But Margot, would you speak to that sort of through line with Nelly too?
Totally. And the first thing I thought when reading the book Wuthering Heights is, wow, Nelly hates Kathy, was my first feeling. The way she spoke about her. And at this point in the book, it's an older Nelly recounting this story from the past, and so Kathy is long dead, and she's kind of speaking about her in such a callous way that I was like, I think she hates her. Anyways, that was my interpretation of it. So they've got this relationship, and in the movie, Emerald's really playing up these moments of where Kathy, like, there's a lot of recreational cruelty throughout the film, but there's a particularly cruel moment from Kathy where she says to Nelly, no one's ever loved you and no one ever will. And she's kind of saying like that from herself too. Like, she's pretty much saying like, I don't love you and I never will and I never have. And it's so mean and it's so unnecessary. But then the ripple effect of that moment, Nelly then allows Heathcliff to hear Kathy say this thing and blah, blah, blah. And then the whole, everything happens. And it's just another example, I think, of our characters, being the instigator of their circumstances and doing a thing that then has these knock-on effects that will ultimately destroy them. And it's so much more interesting, I think, to watch that rather than play a character or watch a character who just has things happen to them and then they go on and react to the things that happen to them. It's like they did something and then there was a huge knock-on effect from it.
100%, and it makes it so rewatchable. Like, we're gonna go to the premiere tonight and I'm like gonna watch it from a different lens, knowing how it all plays out, which is also so cool to pick up something every time that you watch it in terms of like behavior and other things, which
and
is
actually,
so
just
awesome.
to speak to Hong for a second too, sorry, what I meant to say, she's such a powerful actress, and she also just has this, she can do stoicism in a way that I can't, and she can kind of almost absorb these blows in a way that Kathy cannot. Kathy retaliates so quickly. So that I think the moments when you see her be hurt, Nelly be hurt by a moment, is so much more impactful. There's a moment where she kind of breaks down and cries after a conversation, and it just hits you because she's absorbed it for so long. The moment you see her kind of be wounded in that way, it feels more impactful, I think.
And of course, like, because you guys are so deep into it, like, I'm just curious. I mean, the way that I don't know if out of context I'll ever look at like eggs the same way, snails or all those things. Like, do you have like visual representation of what the movie is where you're making an omelet and you're like, damn, should I put my hand in that?
Yeah, eggs will never be the same.
Eggs won't be the same. But do you have a favorite visual moment?
I love all the visuals that Emerald plays with after Kathy's kind of had this sexual awakening, and it's just the next morning she's suddenly everything's hypersexualized to her.
Oh, yeah.
A snail on the window,
slapping of the sourdough.
I mean, everything. These are innocuous things that the day before would have meant absolutely nothing, but to kind of highlight this shift in Kathy's reality in this moment and doing it in those ways visually, I think was so clever.
No, it's amazing. I mean, there was a lot of news that dropped this morning that people were losing their minds and texting me all day being like, has everyone seen that allegedly Jacob Elordi is on a short list for James Bond? And I was like, Jacob does not want to talk about that. But would you, Charli, maybe do a James Bond theme song?
Oh my, you know what? I gotta say, I don't think that I am built for that. Like, I think I probably sing with too much auto-tune to do a James Bond thing.
No, I mean, want
look,
that.
Never say never. I'm open to it if they want to call me, which they won't. But I think it might not be a fit, but it's not going to happen now, is it? So amazing. I don't know.
This is going directly to Barbara Broccoli. I'm sorry. I'm sending it right to her.
Call me. Yeah.
Well, I think what's incredible about this film is sort of like, the long work of Emerald Fennell it continues to wow me in ways that I wasn't expecting, but it's also like the sum of all of your parts together. All of you have kind of like worked with her in some sort of capacity, some more than others, but it all comes together almost as if you were all working to get to this point, and it just bleeds so beautifully through the entire film. It's such an achievement, and I want to say thank you for making it and doing such an incredible job with something that's so, iconic but completely your own. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
It's such an undertaking. We've had Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie and Charli xcx. It's Wuthering Heights, and it's in theaters on February 13th. Thank you.
Thank you.